Okay, I got an article here for everybody. This came actually off of MLive, which is a pretty good source at times, but it says this. I'll let you see the top of it. I don't want to give you anything extra, but it says Dan Campbell concerned by one big thing for the Detroit Lions. Feel free. I usually wouldn't give you this advice, but feel free to pause the video and leave a comment and tell me, what do you think the one thing Dan Campbell is concerned about? Because as you see the title in this video, Dan Campbell is actually, wait for it, encouraged. He's actually encouraged by what he has seen against the Green Bay Packers. Like, he was encouraged by this game. And so if I hear that Dan Campbell is encouraged, well, guess what? Usually I'm pretty encouraged. Now, before we get too excited about it, here is the picture that was used. So I'm tongue in cheek here. I'm just having some fun with it. I'm not saying it went super well. All right. And we know it didn't go well against the Green Bay Packers, but man, oh man, they were 8.5 favorites. They lost. And apparently it was the second biggest upset on Thanksgiving since 1980. But honestly, it was just an ugly game, wasn't it? Like, it was an ugly game. There was mistakes, there were turnovers, there were failed fourth down conversions, there was a failed fake punt. Like, there was a lot that happened. And I'll get into some of my thoughts on there, right? But Dan Campbell identified one key issue heading into December. Did you write it down? Did you tell me what you thought it was? Time to find out if you were right. And he says this, listen, if anything, I went back after watching it. I'm actually more encouraged. Oh, man. Dan Campbell said, he said, because to me, it's not what it appears to be. Okay? Pause. What does it appear to be? Like, that's my question. To me, it appears to be a few different things. And I will absolutely comment on in a second, but I don't want to spend more time listening to me. You can listen to what Dan said. He said, just on the basic level of this, it's turnover ratio. It's turnover ratio. Do you agree? Do you agree? So let's just take a second here and play the opposite. Okay. And then I'm going to tell you if I actually agree with what Dan Campbell says. Let's take a second here and let's play the opposite. Let's go back 3 weeks. Let's start with the LA Chargers. We came out in that game, Sunday Night Football, traveling across the country to play the Chargers, who you thought were in a must-win situation. And you thought that because they were, right? And we go out and look phenomenal on offense. And we looked absolutely terrible on defense. Absolutely terrible on defense. Then we come out the next week against the Chicago Bears and we look awful on offense. Awful. And on defense, we look respectable. We still are giving up yards when I don't feel like we should be giving up yards. Just like, and then Justin Fields, I know it's because of all the turnovers, but we end up getting a victory. We give up some points. But then the Bears go out the next week against the Vikings and they put up 12 while getting 4 turnovers forced from the Vikings. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, the Vikings defense was able to stop them while giving up 4 turnovers. We weren't. And then we play the Vikings. Turnovers are still present. Very much so. But at the same time, while having turnovers present, our defense still doesn't look phenomenal. It just doesn't look phenomenal. But I think the issue here is not so much the defense, and this is where I'll tell you if I agree with Dan Campbell. Is it turnovers? Yeah. Yeah, it's turnovers. In the last couple of games, the Detroit Lions, I understand, have given up some points. Okay, they gave up 26 to the Bears. They gave up 29 to the Packers. And they should have. They should have. All right, they're in the bottom 5 at taking away the football all season. They've generated just 8 picks and 4 fumbles. Now they're coughing up the football. All right, 7 times in the last 2 games. That's not to mention we went for it and failed on 4th down. How many times can you put your defense in a bad position? And yes, you gave up 26 to the Bears and you gave up 29 to the Packers. But you gave the Bears 4 extra possessions. You gave the Packers, I'm going to call it 4 or even 5 extra possessions. So it's turnovers. I will say I understand ride the horse that got you here. And Dan Campbell has been uber aggressive, and it has absolutely won games for us. The uber aggressive nature that he played with got this 41-38 victory over the Chargers. It did. It did. But that was against a Chargers team that everybody thought was a pretty solid team. Nobody thinks the Bears or Packers are really solid teams. That's not the MO on them. So you're sitting here and you're still playing this uber aggressive nature. And part of it's like, hey, you are the better team. No questions asked. Sometimes you need to play like it. But you can't put your team in a position to fail like this. Like the defense can't hold up. And I honestly was worried about our defense coming off that Bears game because they were on the field for 40 minutes. They're on the field for 40 minutes and only gave up 26 points. Can you imagine that? Now, part of that is the ineptitude of what is the Chicago Bears. I will be honest. But 40 minutes, and then they got to play 5 days later. That's a long time to be on the field, and it showed early on in the game. They were just getting run by the Packers, who got off to a quick 20-6 lead. All right. And the Packers continued to move the ball on us. So I say Dan Campbell is right that turnovers are the main problem. If we do not turn the ball over against the Green Bay Packers, I think we beat the Green Bay Packers. Not guaranteed, but I do think we win that game. So I do believe that in that last game, the problem was turnovers. But if you go back outside of the Raiders game, ever since the Ravens game, it has been a struggle. It has been a struggle. And you have a team that is now 2-2. They are now they are 3-1. My bad. In those games. So they're still winning. That's a great thing. That's a great sign. But they can't continue to play this way and expect to win. They got the Saints. All right. Let's go get that victory. We got a couple road games. Band together. We go into New Orleans. We go into Chicago. All right. Always going to be tough in Chicago, especially in December. All right. And then we get some home cooking, but it's against the Broncos, who in the beginning of the year, we would have written that off as a victory, but not anymore. So there's a lot going on here. I hope that you enjoy watching this. I'm slightly more encouraged that Dan Campbell realizes this, but I hope he's also holding in check and holding accountable Aaron Glenn in that defense as well. All right, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.